That's just stupid. Have you realized that when you want to do something new, it's easier to experience more self-criticism and doubt than before? When I was a young woman, I wanted to explore life. But I had this self-critical voice that had a negative impact on almost every aspect of my life. My relationships, my passions, and my ability to be me. But although it was bad at times, I still tried to do what I wanted to do. But that's because I'm stubborn. Having this self-critical voice made it harder for me to put myself out there. But how do we handle this inner self-critical voice? How do we reduce its power? In this video, I'm gonna share a technique that helped me a lot. However, I want to make a disclaimer here. Many psychologists or self-proclaimed spiritual teachers will promise you tools to get rid of your inner critical voice forever. That might work, and if it does, I'm happy for you. But let's face it, this inner critical voice was formed during childhood by parents, friends, siblings, teachers who criticized and yelled at us. And it has been around for so long that for many of us, it feels so natural, and it seems almost impossible to even imagine a life without it. And the problem with it is that even though we get rid of it in certain areas of our life, it will probably be reactivated when we want to take risks and do something new and different. What I'm going to do here is to share a technique that can reduce the power of the inner critic. I think that reducing its power is a much more realistic aim than trying to eliminate it altogether. So let's take a look at this inner critic. In my case, he showed up when I was around 12. I don't remember hearing him before that. But then because in my head it was a male voice and in your head it's perhaps a female voice, he started to get really loud. He shouted mean things like, "You are ugly, you are not talented, your voice is ridiculous. You say just unintelligent and basic, boring things. You're not smart enough," or whatever. I call him kritikergubben, and if you translate it to English, it will be something like the old man, the critic. Having to deal with this inner critical voice was exhausting. Sometimes I tried to talk to him, tell him how much damage he was doing, but he didn't care. At other times I tried to block him out, not listening to him when he started. But that was hard, and I ended up all sweaty and red-faced and with a headache for trying to block him out. Another strategy I had was shyness. I used shyness as a tool. If I don't speak, he cannot criticize me. The problem is that as soon as you open your mouth, he will be there immediately and just tell you that you suck. Yet another strategy was to try to reclaim my authority. I got so fucking mad at him, I yelled back. But that didn't help because, let's face it, he's in my mind and I'm actually just yelling at myself. Some say that this inner critical voice actually has a purpose. He's there to motivate you. He's there to make you grow and be a better person. But he's doing that in a way that bad parents are doing, by yelling at you. But he's doing it because he doesn't want you to feel embarrassed and make a fool out of yourself. My worst battle with this critic was when I was trying to get into Sweden's most prestigious acting school. Whenever I was in front of the jury and I just wanted these 4 minutes or whatever it was to focus on the scene. But there he was, up in my face, telling me that you will never be an actress. You are just awful. You are clumsy and pathetic. There are several tools out there to eliminate and end this self-critical voice. There are those who claim that you can calm down the voice by showing it some empathy. If it's just a confused parent who doesn't know shit about parenthood, then you can understand him and tell him that, yeah, you're doing the best you can. Another tool is that you should distance yourself from it, putting it outside yourself, seeing it as a person and give it a name. I did that when I was a teenager, but that didn't help me. There's also this idea that you can reclaim your power and authority by telling it to not talk to you in this way. Show it. You are the boss. I've done that countless of times. I also imagine it shrinking and move away, further away from me, but yet he came back. But then I accidentally stumbled upon a technique that actually has helped me. And this is my story. My childhood summers were spent in Stockholm archipelago on an island. We went to that island every summer and also sometimes during the winters. Behind the barn, where they had sheep when I was young, there was a forge or a smithy. It was common for farms in the past to have their own small forge. This forge was never used when I was young, but me and my brother often went there because behind the forge was a place in the forest where I regularly met up with one of my imaginary childhood friends. I had several friends like that. The islands and the forest were magical places inhabited by many different beings. But the most important of all my imaginary friends was this forest guy. His name was Kalle Long. Kalle in Swedish is a name used for rabbits, and Long in English would be tall. So he was a tall, half rabbit and half human person. I visited him every summer, almost weekly, from the age of 4 or 5 up to the age of 10. Although he lived in the forest, he also traveled a lot around the world, and I wanted to know everything about his trips. He was such a nice person, even though he was invisible. My brother was never allowed to meet him. I always left my brother on the stone next to the forge, and then I, alone, went to the spot where me and my imaginary Kalle Long friend sat down to talk under a tree. I so enjoyed hanging out with him. We didn't just talk about his trips, but he was also interested in what I was up to. And we really enjoyed hanging out, talking about life and whatever was on our minds. I'm trained as an anthropologist, and for my dissertation I made a longer fieldwork in a small village in the Brazilian Amazon forest. I focused my work on the members of a religious movement who use ayahuasca during their rituals. Ayahuasca is an hallucinogenic brew, and as a good anthropologist I also drank it. During one of these ayahuasca rituals I was moved back to my childhood and to the forest where I met with my childhood friend Kalle Long. It didn't feel like a dream or a vision. It felt real. It felt as if I was really there. After the ritual I was more or less in shock. I cried and I laughed, amazed by the fact that I met with my childhood friend again. An older woman, who was one of the most prominent mediums in the village, approached me and said, "You are so lucky. You just met with your caboclo spirit." Caboclo spirits in these religious movements are believed to be warm-hearted forest spirits. And after this experience, I started to refer to my childhood friend as my caboclo. When I came home from my fieldwork, I started to listen to this voice. I started to hear his voice in my head, and eventually I started to write with him. I started to write dialogues in my diary. And some days I couldn't even function without having a conversation with him first. And after a while I realized that this critical voice inside my head was reduced, because whenever I had a problem, the first thing I did, I turned to this caboclo, this spirit from my past, and asked him about advice. This is like this story with the two wolves. I bet you heard it. It's a Cherokee Indian story, so they say. It's about an old man and his grandson. And the old man is talking about the human mind and tells his grandson that within every human person there are two wolves. They are constantly battling with one another. One wolf is this negative, angry, sad, irritated wolf, and the other wolf is this peaceful, happy, generous wolf. They are in constant battle. And the grandson of this old man, who listened to his grandfather talking about these two wolves, he asked, "Which one of these wolves will win?" And the old man answered, "The one that you listen to." So that was what I was doing. I was actually listening more to the positive voice inside my head than to the negative one. I'm happy I met with these spiritual people who put their inner content or their inner struggles outside themselves and see them as spirits. I perhaps would have reached some similar conclusions anyway, but for me it helped a lot to put all this struggle outside. Whenever I start something new today, I call upon my childhood imaginary friend. Because when I start something new, the inner critical voice gets reactivated again. And then I need more help from my childhood imaginary friend. He said that I developed good. No, he said that I grew up good. He said that I grow into a fine young woman. Fuck! If you don't have an imaginary friend from the past, you can use your imagination and create a compassionate inner mentor that can be there to help you whenever you want to do something new and you hear this critical voice louder than before. So take some time every morning, go up and write with this inner, more positive force within you. Give it a name. Ask him or her questions, and you will see that that will be helpful whenever you want to do something new.